I do want to talk about two more chord formulas that are going to help us as we move on into some of this other stuff. And they are 7 chords, okay? So, if you've heard of an A7 chord, or also an A minor 7, and also an A major 7. Those are 3 completely different kinds of chords, and I'm going to talk about the formulas for each of those. So the first one I talked about, or I believe the first one I mentioned, was called a minor 7 chord. So we can just say A again, A minor 7. Okay, the chord formula for that is the same as an A minor, but it has a 4th tone added to it, and it's the minor 7th. And when I say minor 7th, I mean that interval from the root. And remember earlier I said this is good to know that the 7th, the minor 7th, as far as knowing like what letter note it is, it's the letter note that's just a whole step lower than the root. So here's where I'm going with the formula for A minor 7. It's an A note, was the root. The minor 3rd is a C. The perfect 5th is an E, so A, C, E, that's the minor, A minor. And then the minor 7th interval, like I said, it's a whole step down from the A, or a letter below the root. So it's a G. The minor 7th of A is G. But you can locate it by going, oh, G's right there. I mean, that's still the minor 7th tone as well, but you know, using that as the lowest isn't going to really work. So the next G possible is right here. So you have root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7th. Then you have the root again. So there's an extra tone to it, that minor 7th, and it's a G note. So you can figure out, go through that same process and figure out places to add a G. I mean, one would be, you know, right here, instead of playing a regular bar chord, you take your pinky off and now you're hitting that minor 7 right there. So there's a minor 7 chord. You also have that G note right here. So you can play it like this. And so on, you know, it's just knowing those intervals. And we're going to use those intervals for the scales and keys as well, so it's going to be important. Alright, so the formula for a minor 7 chord is just that root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, just like we did for the A minor construction there, but then add the minor 7th to it. And it's one of the easiest, like I said before, it's one of the easiest intervals to be able to name, because it's just a letter or a whole step below your root. So like when I was in college studying music theory, the teacher would walk around, and, you know, insider knowledge here, but, you know, the teacher would walk around and be like, you know, Marty, what's the minor 7 of B? And I would say, oh, it's an A. See, I know it's a whole step down, or, you know, to locate it's a whole step below the root. But the major 7 is only a half step below the root. So like if I'm, you know, sitting around and the teacher goes, hey, what's the major 7 of F sharp? I would say F, because it's only a half step below. You know, F sharp, the major 7 would be that, F. But when you're constructing an chord, you're going to play that major 7 like an octave higher, or even 2 octaves higher, depending on what's going on. All of a sudden it's the magical chord. So those 7ths are really good, because all you're doing to play a minor 7 chord, you play that minor chord formula and you just add that minor 7th interval to it. To play a 7 chord, like A7 or B7, you know, like the blues chord, not major 7, not minor 7, but just 7, that's where we're talking about what's called the dominant category. And it's when someone says a 7 chord, like a D7 chord, or a G7 chord, or a B7, or F7. You know, I didn't say minor, I didn't say major, I just said 7. Okay, I think I made the point here, okay? So, a lot of times it's referred to as a dominant 7 chord. So let me talk about the formula for that. It's a major chord formula, so root, major 3rd, perfect 5th, but then that minor 7th interval added to it. So for instance, an A7 chord is an A major chord with the minor 7 added to it, which is it's a G. So basically, if I take an A major chord, any A major chord I already know, if I add a G note somewhere to it, it's now become an A7 chord. And you know, the most common way would be to take the pinky off, and it adds that G right there, and you get the blues version. Or that G's right here. Bluesy, okay? So the major chord formula with the minor 7th added to it gives you a 7 chord, A7. And then the last 4-tone 7 chord I want to talk about is a major 7 chord. And so what that is, it's the major chord formula again. So like if I said an A major 7 chord, it would be an A major chord with the major 7th interval added to it instead of the minor 7th interval. So that would be an A note, the major 3rd, which is a C sharp, the perfect 5th, which is an E, and then a G sharp, not a G. A G is the minor 7th. A G sharp is the major 7th. So basically an A major chord with some kind of G sharp in there will give us an A major 7 chord. And you know, quickest way would be this one. And what I'm doing is I'm playing a root, and then I'm not doing anything on the A string. I'm going right over to that major 7th, that G sharp. Then I'm playing my pinky on the major 3rd, and then I took my middle finger and put it on the perfect 5th, which is an E. And just remember, the major 7th is just a half step below the root as far as finding the letter. So that should, you know, theoretically be the easiest one, or you know, one of the easiest ones to find. You know, once again, when I was in college studying music, and they would quiz us on the intervals all the time. I mean, really, right off the bat, right when music college, or you know, my music education started in a university kind of atmosphere, we're immediately quizzing intervals, and not only the teacher asking me to just name the interval on the spot, but also a teacher playing the interval on a piano and us having to use our ear to identify the interval. So as you can see, it was really drilled into my head, and I know why, because it's the lifeblood. Okay, so just remember though that to find a major 7th of a tone, it's just a half step below the root, and to find a minor 7th of a tone, it's a whole step below the root. All right, and I just took these intervals that we talk, musicians are gonna talk about the intervals a lot, like it's you add the 4th right there and blah, and all that stuff. So it does end up really kind of helping you communicate the language. All right, so there's more info to come, so hang tight. We'll see you real soon.